Are you curious about whether or not psilocybin is going to be decriminalized statewide here in Colorado? If you're curious, stick around and we will teach you not only the ins and the outs of Proposition 122, our own personal and professional perspectives on this amazingly progressive proposition. We will also teach you how to grow your own sacrament or medicine and how you can access the resources to do that. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Mycelium Digest. We are here today. We're 6 days away from voting on Proposition 122 here in Colorado, which is going to decriminalize statewide psilocybin as well as some other natural substances. And we're really excited about this. And we just want to talk about it from all of the different perspectives, from our own perspectives. And before I go any further, right now, go ahead and click on that red button down there and subscribe to our channel and sign up for alerts so that you get the first, you're the first to know about new episodes as we post them. So getting back to this Proposition 122, Denver decriminalized psilocybin back in 2019. And what does decriminalization even mean? It basically means that it's not legal to have psilocybin, but you can grow it, you can have it in your own personal, for personal use, you can share it. You cannot sell it. And if you get caught for whatever reason, you might, get a fee or a fine or whatever, but you're not going to go to jail. Now, what we're voting on for Proposition 122 is it's a two-prong approach. So basically, Sean McAllister, our amazing attorney, who was very much involved in writing up this proposition, he wanted to one-up Oregon's 109 measure, which is more of a regulatory model. And so what we're voting on here in Colorado is a two-prong approach. The regulatory model, which is going to give therapists and, licensed practitioners the ability to share the medicine, to give the medicine in exchange for a fee for services offered. And then also the second part of this is the personal use model, which means that anyone that is 21 years and older can grow their own sacrament at home and share it, but not sell it. So, and this measure, it starts out with psilocybin. We're going to be voting on psilocybin only at first, and then 2 years later, we're going to reevaluate to see how it's going. And if we feel like it's appropriate, they're going to move forward with other natural substances such as iboga, DMT, and mescaline other than peyote. So, yeah. So these are our guests, our expert panelists. This is Corey Taylor, my husband. Hello, and Donovan, the higher education heretic. And we are just here to discuss, our feelings and our perspectives on this measure.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. And hi, Donovan. How are you today, buddy?
Great. Lovely to be here again.
Awesome. This is a pretty exciting topic, as we've discussed in previous episodes and many conversations over the decades. This is like a moment in time that I think, truthfully, like a spiritual revolution is sparking. We're letting the genie back out of the bottle. The people of planet Earth have been missing in many places this medicine and not had access to it because of governments and religions. And this is a moment that we can change things. And so here in Colorado, we've been at the forefront of a lot of that. And Sean definitely, I think, learned a lot from the laws that were passed in Oregon and how it's basically strictly a clinical model. And they're struggling with that because you have a medicine that is now in the hands of people that don't know much about the medicine and really are going to take a lot of time to learn how to use it, what its value is. They're now in control. And this is a medicine, psilocybin specifically, that doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to planet Earth and all the inhabitants of planet Earth.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is a really neat piece of law that he's proposed, because it's going to allow both sides of that equation. And maybe you can give a few thoughts on that, Don, and we can go a little deeper into both of those sides of what it's going to mean for the clinical side, as well as the personal use side, which I think is the real strong piece of this legislation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do love the two-prong approach, especially addressing the personal usage, and as we've spoken before, and as you guys know, and I'll hit it again, I'm a huge proponent of individual sovereignty, and I've read some of these naysay articles that Aaron sent out to us, and the first thing came to my mind was, heaven forbid we heal ourselves, and so, and I think that's the missing message in a couple of these articles against Prop 122, is that you're giving people the power to heal themselves, to better humanity. You're not relying on a regulated entity that's centralized, that could take years before anything happens, before people continue to suffer. So I love the two-prong approach. And I love that in the context of the measure, it's written in the context of counseling, spiritual guidance, beneficial to community-based use, healing, supported. And I think that's a beautiful statement and what is the true ethos of this measure, but you'll never hear about it in a couple of these articles that were written. The opinion piece by the Colorado Sun, also the Denver Post came out with one 2 days ago, I believe. So like I said, heaven forbid we heal ourselves. Okay.
Those articles reminded me immediately of the old Timothy Leary line that LSD oftentimes creates psychoactive responses in people that have never tried it. And it's the same side, same thing with mushrooms. It's the people that have never used the medicine that don't realize that. I think it was your comment, Wood, that drug seekers and drug addicts, they don't run to psychedelics because ego dissolution is not a fun process. Like going into the cave of your consciousness and confronting the things that are in there, including the imagination, the beauty, and the healing. Those aren't the types of medicines that people will have problems with. And those articles were so short-sighted, you could tell that the people writing them had never used the medicines and really had no sense of what they're talking about.
No.
And all the way back to the 70s when Timothy Leary pointed that out, the people freaking out about LSD at the time, oh, they've never tried it. And here we are 40, 50 years later in the same boat. So that's one of the exciting things, is maybe we can finally get out of this rut that society's been stuck in since the revolution of the 60s. Mm-hmm. And to your point too, Donovan, that the practical use of individuals, most people that encounter psychedelic experiences, they've never done it in a clinical setting or with a shaman. It's usually something that happens with your friends, your people you trust, and in very small settings. And that's how you first explore. And you don't need, it'd be nice if we all had access to a shaman in a rainforest that could go in and do it how the cultures have done psychedelic experiences and ayahuasca and psilocybin journeys. But in today's world, that's just not a practical approach. And so this personal use model allows for people to take the medicine, finally have access to it, and begin to explore. And unlike all of the other things that those articles were worried about, like spend your time worrying about fentanyl, and alcohol, and vape pens, and nicotine, and the food industry, and the things that are actually killing, opioid addictions. Oh my goodness. And then, by the way, naysayers, no one ever has died from psilocybin. In the history of our species, there's not one documented case from someone dying from eating too many mushrooms. Never happened, never will. So spend your time learning about mushrooms before you start naysaying. That's kind of...
Yeah, take some mushrooms.
Yeah, go try them.
Go try them and listen to what the mushrooms have to say to you, and then circle back around and follow up with us on your naysaying thoughts.
Yeah, what I do also like the educational component to the proposition, even on the personal use level.
Yep.
You know, it's well written in the proposition that there is going to be an educational component that goes with it. It's not going to be YOLO, let's do some mushrooms. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
so
and that's really part of what our mission is too. You know, part of our
Definitely.
church is, you know, it's great that all of this is happening, but so many people don't even know where to start, and that's what we're here for. We're here to break it down, to break down the fears, to help you get started. And before I go on, I wanted to say, make sure you stay until the end of this video where we're going to be sharing some more precious resources with you. If you live in a decriminalized city, if you would like to live in a decriminalized city, how to get started, and how to grow your own medicine. We are huge proponents of growing your own medicine. That is part of this Proposition 122. So we're going to share with you some resources at the end of this video about how you can safely get started. What I want to ask, you know, a lot of the naysayers from these articles, you know, and you know, I was a pediatrics nurse. I worked in the ER when all the kids got into mom and dad's cannabis candies, and you know, I've seen on the front lines, you know, what happens, and that's the big thing is, you know, these naysayers are pulling at our heartstrings, saying, well, what about the kids? What about the kids? The kids are going to get into it. The kids are going to be targeted. You know, Donovan, you're a dad of 4 kids. You've got 3 teenage boys and a 2-year-old daughter. What do you have to say about this? What if this was going on in North Dakota where you live?
well, one thing I would say, and this goes a lot with, you know, parenting, but to be a good parent, you have to be a critical thinking individual. And that sometimes is a deep, dark hole to go down, you know, because you mess up proper as a parent. But I would say, you know, if anything I've learned from psilocybin and what it does, and which is like, hey, you can heal yourself, you can do these things, is the importance of that. You know, am I going to tell my children, hey, you suffer from this? Oh, the pharmaceutical industry is going to take good care of you. Oh, hey, go out and get a job. Our government's going to take care of you. No, I'm not going to tell them that. I'm going to teach them the things how to heal themselves, how to become an individual that's sovereign and can take care of themselves. I'm going to teach them how to grow their own food, how to hunt, how to skin their own kill, how to store it, you know, those kinds of things as a parent. Would it scare me if that was running around? Yeah, but I think the educational component out there is worth the risk. You know, we talk often of safety versus progress. And right now we live in a huge culture of safety to where we're almost trapped and almost begging someone to take care of us all the time. I don't want my children to live in fear.
That's what drives all this culture of safety. Be safe. Take our freedoms away. Is they've used fear to steer you into thinking you're safe. You know, I mean, your kids are going to be confronted by alcohol, nicotine, sex, bullying. Go down the list. Cigarettes. You know, vape pens. As a parent, if you don't teach them, have an honest conversation with your kid about what these things are, they just go out in the world and they run into them and they're going to try them. You got to tell your kid what it is. Just like the mushrooms that grow in your backyard, you teach your kid, don't pick those and eat them. They're bad for you. But if you don't teach them that, they go out and next thing you know, little Jimmy's got a mushroom that he found in the backyard in his mouth.
Yeah, and that's difficult when your children's in a school 6 hours a day, teaching them mainstream media things, teaching them to be the circle that fits in the circle, that fits in the piece of the puzzle. So you're fighting 2 things. One is teaching them to be a heterodox thinker and showing them that, hey, some of the good things out in the world are not being talked about on TV. They're being hidden for very good reason.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes you have to fight that battle, but because they'll come back with, well, the medical industry says this, or the Colorado Sun says this. And you have to say, and you really have to fight that battle, you know, and this is a talk I welcome to have. If it happened in North Dakota, it's a lot easier than the sex talk. I'll tell you that. So yeah, I would welcome something like this, saying this is such good news. This
Yeah.
is such good news. And I think about that parent who's had a child who's served in a war and has come back with PTSD and has developed treatment resistant depression, anxiety, so many things, and is out of options.
Yeah.
This fixes that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what was you mentioned that 1/3 of the folks
1/3 of patients receiving treatment for anxiety, depression,
Yeah.
PTSD are treatment resistant.
Yes.
1/3.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And beyond that, the people that do benefit from some of the treatments from the pharmaceutical industry, in one of our previous episodes, the study outlined that those medicines that are being provided by pharma oftentimes will take up to 35 to 45 days of continuous use before it begins to rewire the neurological scaffolding that's used during those events of trauma or PTSD or anxiety. So it takes a long time for those medicines, if they kick in to help at all,
Yeah.
to rewire the pathways and maybe get you out of those cycles. Where in that study, it outlined that in one treatment, even a microdose of psilocybin, they saw an immediate 1 day later neurological change where different scaffoldings of your neurology are being used. And that is an immediate path to begin to change the behavior, change the cycle, change the response to the thought. And that's one of the things I think that's cool about this model, where we will have the clinical access to it in Colorado.
Yeah.
We'll be able to allow medicine that these parts of psychiatry, counseling. There's a lot of doctors and folks out there that have been looking at these medicines from afar for decades, saying, "Man, I wish I could use that or try it because I think it would work or help me help someone."
Yeah.
They're going to have access to that now,
Yeah.
and that's great.
Yeah.
Also, you don't have to go get help. You can just begin to try the medicines.
Right.
And so often we talk about how these medicines are going to help people that need help. That's fabulous. These medicines are going to help people that don't need help. Like all the great things that psilocybin can do for healthy people.
Yeah.
Or people that aren't necessarily super healthy, but not really super off the rails. Like this medicine helps everybody. Your creativity, your connectiveness to each other, your connection to planet Earth, compassion, like all the things that psilocybin offers. It's going to be good for people on both sides of all these, these vectors of where people are at in their lives.
Right.
So I think it's a pretty exciting time in Colorado, and hopefully this will be the template that I think is already being looked at. I know in Illinois, they're looking at this exact measure so that they can begin to maybe even do better, copycat or do better.
That's what we're hoping for. That's what happened in 2019. And that's definitely what we're hoping for with this as well. So,
and I love that statement, copycat, in terms of, and it kind of, I can't remember who wrote the book, but he writes about parallel societies. To where this is creating a parallel society that exists along your traditional society with traditional government, traditional medicine. One's not trying to overthrow the other one. They are just coexisting.
Yeah.
And the people have those options. Oregon and Colorado is starting to become a parallel society in that regard. Now, if you got into like the financial side of things, it'd be a little bit different. El Salvador is a good example of that, who've gotten off a traditional fiat monetary standard and gone to Bitcoin as their medium of exchange, unit of account type of thing. Other fiat systems still exist. They just exist on a parallel scheme. Okay. And so I think that's a beautiful thing that is starting to happen. I know we sound like a bunch of doomers at times, but I think the beautiful things of these parallel societies where it is getting people to become individually sovereign with food and medicine and money. It's a beautiful time.
Yeah.
And I don't think the societies will have to exist parallel for too long, because behind the curtain of all this, Big Pharma already knows that over 65% of all of the drugs they make derive from fungus. They've been going into the Amazons and into the forests and finding mushrooms and pulling compounds out of those fungal species for the last 60 years. they take it back to a laboratory, and then they make a pill to sell you.
Yeah.
And so they are very well aware of the work that's going on and all the research studies we've talked about across the United States. There's over 60 plus at really high level academic institutions and medical professional institutions. And they're neck deep in getting ahead of this curve, because they know once this happens and the genie's out of the bottle, they want a piece of it. And they're already lining up. They're building facilities in Oregon. There's a company that's already down in Jamaica growing psilocybin to source to the pharmaceutical industries. So I think the blend will happen a lot faster than people think. And before you know it, right now we have to watch a football game or something on TV, the World Series, and you got to watch like 500 pharmaceutical commercials to sell you a drug for everything that could be wrong with you. Yep. In 5 years, you might see a commercial on in between the World Series or Sunday Night Football that's talking about a medicine derived from psilocybin from Pfizer or from Johnson and Johnson or somebody.
Yeah.
It's going to happen really fast.
Yep.
And that's fine. That's fine. They can help people. People can help themselves. I think that's a really important piece of this proposition.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point.
One last point that I would like to make, getting back to the population that is very near and dear to our heart and the mission of our church, the Church of the Divine Heart, which is our U.S. military veterans. This proposition is going to help our veterans who currently only have, we've mentioned it in a previous episode, currently there's only a few programs that help our veterans with this medicine, and they have to go out of the country that they served to get these medicines. And so this is really exciting because, when you're working with PTSD, and this goes for anyone, not just veterans, if you're working with PTSD and you have a lot of traumas, super, super important that you're working with a mental health professional that can help you, process these. Don't just, with the personal use model, if you have a lot of traumas and you journey with the medicine, I truly believe that everything's going to be fine. There's a lot of talk of these psychotic breaks that happen, to people that have traumas and not. And, again, no one has ever died from psilocybin. If you have the tools, if you have the resources, if you have the support, you will absolutely benefit from this medicine. Don't go at it alone. Just don't, why not? It's just a nice thing to do for yourself. And, this is really going to help, our veterans. I remember the first week that we founded the Church of the Divine Heart, I had a veteran. Ooh, I'm getting all emotional thinking about it right now. Reach out to me and he said, I haven't left my house in years. Is there any way that you can get me this medicine? And I wanted so badly to drive wherever he was and just give him some of the sacrament, but I can't do that. I can't do that legally. And this is going to allow for our veterans to really have access quickly to this medicine and not have to fly out of the country to get the access. And our veterans need their own people, their own support, to help with all of the things that unfortunately that they come home with on their mental plate. So that's just my little plug about, just, help yourself, support yourself. It's just a nice thing to do with this medicine.
And if you're interested in donating to the Church of the Divine Heart, our mission is that we are collecting donations to sponsor veterans, specifically veterans, to go get work with their people, professional help using psilocybin to begin to recover from PTSD, traumatic brain trauma, and all the damage that they have incurred as they are out fighting for the freedoms that we seem to continuously give away here in the United States. Sorry, a little sarcasm there, but they were out fighting for us. We
wouldn't expect anything less.
They've been out fighting for us, and we're trying to help them.
Yes.
Because this is finally a medicine that the folks that have been trying to help with the pharmaceuticals, they've been waiting for these medicines to be freed, let out.
Yeah.
And it's happening here in Colorado. So it's an exciting time. If you're interested in donating or know someone who would be willing to donate to contribute and help veterans get some help, please visit our website. And that's a plug for the Church of the Divine Heart today.
Yeah.
So
Yep. So any last thoughts, gentlemen, before we wrap up this really awesome session that we've had?
Please look at the links in the description below that will tag the articles from the Colorado Sun,
Yep.
the Denver Post, and also an article from Maps as well, maybe a couple others. And that's, I would say, just do your own research, become individually sovereign, and stay disobedient.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and your energy again. We are going to be wrapping up another episode next week when we learned that this proposition has passed, and they've already done 2 dry runs with it, and it's passed with over 60% both times, even with the heaviest opposition. So we're really excited about that. Next week is also Veterans Day, so we'll be posting another episode very soon. So thank you for joining us, and always feel free to reach out with any questions, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Donovan. We'll talk to you soon,
Thank you, guys.
And also, if you're curious about growing your own medicine, your own sacrament, click on this link, and our friends over at Fungi Fanatics will teach you how to grow your own medicine in a very, very simple way. Thanks for joining.